Good afternoon, Max Brantley with the Arkansas Times, coming to you from outdoors on Monday, October the 1st, having some fun of a sort because Facebook is down. I'm not sure if this video is going to even be posted before the day is over, so I'm doing something a little different. Let me tell you what I know as quickly as possible. The Senate today passed 3 pieces of legislation that are aimed at giving comfort to people who don't want to get vaccinated against COVID-19. In a variety of ways to discourage employers from requiring vaccinations, to provide testing money or perhaps even damage money if people get fired because they don't get vaccinated. None of these got the emergency clause adopted, which means it wouldn't take effect for 3 months, and so they're not going to be much use to the driving force behind these bills, which are a round of layoffs faced by some people whose employers have begun requiring vaccinations. We'll know more on this perhaps tomorrow. The House didn't take up a bill that did the same thing today, in part because of, I think, what happened in the Senate, less enthusiastic passage than perhaps was expected. This session was supposed to be about congressional redistricting, and it hadn't happened yet. There's a committee meeting in the House this afternoon that might provide some clue about what's to happen. There's a new bill in the Senate by Senator Jane English. It mirrors an early proposal in the House that had great support from Nelda Speaks. Both of them are Republicans, by the way. It would let Sebastian County remain whole, add Madison County to the 3rd District, and split up Pulaski County to allow for some population changes, supposedly amendments in an order. We don't really know where that's going to end up, but as yet the legislature hasn't done anything about its main reason for being, and has done a lot about something it shouldn't be doing, which is discouraging vaccinations. The news on COVID-19 is good, down sharply here as it is in the nation and the world. Only 195 new cases in the last 24 hours, a drop in 1,000 in active cases. There were 12 more deaths. Vaccinations have dropped off sharply, only 2,400 new vaccinations. Perhaps that's because people think the threat is over. I don't think we can count on that, but there's a lot of signs that maybe we're seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. The state announced today that September revenue came in so robustly that the state now has a $250 million surplus after 3 months of the fiscal year, on top of another $1 billion or more in reserve funds. This money, if the legislature has its way, will go to tax cuts for millionaires, not for important services like universal pre-K and other good things. More lower cost insurance for teachers might be another good idea. Some news over the weekend that are worth mentioning. Women and men both gathered in a number of Arkansas cities, big crowd at the state capitol, in support of reproductive freedom. This is in response to the Texas law and the U.S. Supreme Court that allowed it to stay effect that bans abortions. Arkansas would like to do the same. The Arkansas Democratic Party chose Grant Tennille, who's been an advisor recently to Mayor Frank Scott in Little Rock and formerly worked for Mike Beebe and Republican Governor Mike Huckabee, to be chairman of the state Democratic Party going forward. It's a thankless job and a tough circumstance in a Trump state, but Grant Tennille's a nice guy. Surely Sarah Huckabee Sanders can't say that he's one of those radical liberals if he worked for her daddy at one time. And finally, Leslie Rutledge, who's also running for governor against Sarah Sanders, did a little ad timed with the Razorback football game Saturday. Bad timing, as it turned out. Wasn't a happy day. In which she managed to invoke the name of God 4 times in 5 sentences. She praised herself and, I guess, wrapped herself in God's loving arms on the fact that she'd stopped taxpayer money going to Planned Parenthood. That's true, but she didn't explain why. She stopped it from going to family planning services, contraceptive birth control pills, in other words, for poor women who want to avoid becoming pregnant and facing unwanted pregnancies. Thanks to Leslie Rutledge, Planned Parenthood was cut out of that money, and undoubtedly some women got pregnant who didn't want to be and had abortions as a result. So congratulations, Leslie. I'm Max Brantley. Perhaps I'll be back tomorrow.